Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. I'm your host, Josh Stallworth, and welcome back to another week of Future Fights. We're actually starting a brand new set today. We are going to be doing the Bang Dream set this week. I know that set is not technically out in English, but I did still want to follow the chronological order of the set's release and coming out, and maybe one day in English we will get it. Hopefully we'll get it and kind of soon, because I honestly didn't expect to like these decks at all, because I wasn't a big fan of the last collaboration event that Bushiroad did with Vanguard, which was Token Rambu. But I actually, maybe because it's standard and they have like this really cool mechanic, but I really had a good time like recording and, you know, experimenting and trying to figure out how these decks work and how to best explain it to you guys. So I really had a good time playing these decks, and I hope that you guys will have just as good of a time learning it with me or having me explain it to you. So we're going to get right into the future fight. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe down below. Click that bell button so you don't have to miss any future videos from us. Also, be sure to drop a like for me and comment down below letting me know what you guys think of the Bang Dream set. Like, do you guys like it? Do you guys dislike it? Do you guys have a favorite deck out of it? I haven't even covered the other decks that come out of it. There's like 4 other decks. So today we're going to be covering the Popping Party Bang Dream set. So I don't know anything about Bang Dream except for like the skills of these cards. So if I murder anything about your card, your waifu, don't kill me, okay? But first things last, something like that. But if you guys want to check out my second channel, Let's Plays Animes, we cover anime, animation, and video games. That's going to be down in the description down below. Also, be sure to click that join button if you guys are interested in supporting the channel even further than just watching or, you know, giving a like or a comment. That would be well appreciated if you guys are interested in that. Also, be sure to check out our Twitch, which is LPA Empire, down in the description below as well. And then I don't think there's anything else to say. So with that being said, let's get right into today's deck. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the Bang Dream Poppin' Party cards. So this is going to look really weird to you guys, especially those of you who have never played White Schwartz before. Let me tell you why. So some of these order cards that we have in this deck are sideways, and that might look really weird to like the average player, but in White Schwartz they have a type of card that is sideways. I forget what it's called, but I played White Schwartz like literally like once upon a time. I played the trial deck of that game when it first came out. So I know that the cards not only look like this, but they are sometimes sideways like this. I think they're called climaxes or something like that. But let's get into the deck. So deck is very interesting. So first of all of the Bang Dream cards are Force, which means that you can use Force 1 or Force 2. With this deck, I prefer Force 1 because it kind of works similarly to Asha if I had to compare it to a deck, but it just has a lot of cool mechanics that keep it being way different from Asha. But basically this is a very piece reliant deck, so you want to ideally get your board full with all of the required cards, and then you're able to get your full turn play off. So I'm going to explain all of the cards to you guys, and then I'm going to explain, like, you know, the combos, stuff that you guys can do, and then show you guys some games. So let's get right into it. So our only grade 3 of the deck, we only run 4 grade 3s in the deck. Yeah, I guess technically if you count the order, we run 5, but I don't count the order as an actual card because these are the cards that you can actually ride. So we actually only run 1 grade 3 card that we can ride, which is Glittering Stage Kazumi Toyama. So what I just say Kasumi for short. So what Kasumi grade 3 does is she has 2 Vanguard abilities. The first one is a continuous Vanguard ability that says if you have the units with Te Hanazono, Rimi Ushigome, Saya Yamabuki, Arisa Ichigaya in their card names, and then if you have all those cards on your board, then all of your front row rear guards get the trigger checks that this unit gets by the drive check. So what this means is that it kind of shares trigger checks similar to God Hand, but it is kind of like Asha in that way too. So because it's a Force deck, I guess it would be more similar to Asha than God Hand, but that's just what it reminds me of off the top of my head. Then the second activation skill is if an order was not played this turn, you can counterblast 1, search your deck or drop zone for up to 1 popping party music and play it. And if you searched your deck, shuffle your deck. So let's talk about the music cards for a second. So this is in every single Bang Dream deck. Like, they have music as their mechanic. So it's very important that we go over these. So basically, music are basically another word for order cards in this deck. And the way that it works is once the order card is played, it goes in the center column behind your Vanguard until the end of the turn. And it acts as a rear guard, or, you know, it acts as a little space on your rear guard. And then at the end of the turn, the music goes to your drop zone. Whatever music card that's behind your Vanguard goes to your drop zone. So you have a bunch of like a bunch of different music cards that you can use. Usually the grade 3 music card is like the ace card that you want to use when you have full combo. The grade 2 music card is like situational, and the grade 1 is if you can't use the grade 2 or the grade 3 efficiently. And then you resort to using the grade 1 order card. Or in the early game, as you progress on, use the 1, then the 2, then the 3. So basically, let me explain what this ability means, basically. So if you the first ability is saying that if you have these units, so basically this grade 2 right here, this grade 2 right here, so I call this Tai, Rimi, Arisa, and Saya. So if you have those 4 cards on the board, which basically equals out to a full board, because you will have a music card behind your Vanguard circle. So if you have a music card here, you'll have 2 grade 2s here, both different, and then 2 grade 1s here, both different. And then you'll be able to proc the skill, which means that anything that you check for the whole turn will go to your entire front row. So this is really, really pressuring for your opponent, especially when you go force 1, because it basically, you know, you're already stacking crits and trying to crit your opponent and stuff like that. So having the additional power, it just makes it even harder for your opponent to block. I would say that you can have a possibility of going Force 2, but I would just say be very careful, because in my playtesting it didn't work out so well because the power was too low to try to compete with other some of these other decks that are around in this format. And then also, the second ability, if an order was not played this turn, Counterboss 1, search your deck or your drop zone. So this ability is on a lot of the different Bang Dream cards of the different Bang Dream grade 3s. And this is an absolutely amazing ability. What this means is that no matter what, if you've used the order card or if you haven't, obviously this skill requires that you haven't used an order card that turn, but if you've used it earlier in the game or you haven't used it yet and you need to find it, it's so easy. It's as easy as Counterblast 1, and you can go through your deck or get it and go through your drop zone and get it. And this is what allows us to run 1 of the grade 3 order card, 1 of the grade 2 order card, and then 3 of the grade 1s. And the reason that we run 3 of the grade 1s is because A, we have space, and B, in the early game you really want to try to find those before you get to grade 3 to help you get some card advantage and get your engine started off properly. So I'm actually going to go over all the normal cards, and then I'll go over the order cards because it makes more sense that way. So let's go into our grade 2s. First, we have 4 always natural Tei Hanazono. So what Tei does is she has 2 rearguard abilities. The first one is when placed, discard a card from your hand and return a music card from your drop zone to your hand. So this card I use sparingly. This is pretty much like if you can't use Kazumi, or you don't want to use the counterblast of Kazumi, you have another option with Tei if that music card is in your drop zone. So you can place this card and then, you know, discard and get the music card back. Or we'll just call it a music order, so you can get the music order back. And then it has another ability that's kind of similar to Ignorode or Neo Flame if you're used to abilities like those, which is when your Vanguard attacks, this unit and that unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So just having these on the board, like if you have, obviously it's going to be ideal that you only have 1 of these on the board, because your ideal setup is to have 1 of these, 1 of these, 1 of these, and 1 of these, and then a music order in your back row. So you ideally only want to have 1 of these, but if you're like stuck or something like that and you haven't found the pieces yet, if you have 2 of these, that's still good, because you're able to still give your Vanguard plus 10 when your Vanguard attacks, and then, you know, the 2 rear guards are getting plus 5k on the rear guard circle. So not bad columns at all. It doesn't make terrible columns. Our next grade 2 in the deck, we run 4 Overflowing Execution Kazumi Toyama. So something to mention about this deck is this deck does have a grade 1, 2, and 3 Kazumi. And basically these are the cards that are not your key pieces. And these are the cards that help you work around your key pieces to help you get to your key pieces. So these are not the actual cards that you need themselves, except for the grade 3, of course. But these are cards that are just supporting the rest of the you getting the pieces of the deck. So, grade 2 Kazumi, what she does is when placed Vanguard Rearguard Circle, look at the top 7 cards from your deck and reveal up to 1 music order card from among them and put into your hand and shuffle your deck. So, free +1. Also, if you guys are adding all these orders to your hands, they are really good discard fodder when you need to discard for stuff. So, you can keep that in mind too, since your orders are completely recyclable from the drop zone. You can feel free to discard them at any time, and it's literally no problem. Lastly, in our grade 2 lineup, we have 4 Miss Hard Worker Rimi Ushigome. So what Rimi does is she's our final grade 2 piece that we have, and she has a rearguard ability as well that says when your Vanguard attacks, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can discard a card from your hand and reveal a critical trigger from your hand. And then the Popping Party Vanguard that you have, which obviously you only have 1 grade 3 Vanguard. So, I mean, and this could be used on grade 2 as well. This just requires that your opponent's on grade 3. So, ideally, you want to be on grade 3 when you're using this, but your Popping Party Vanguard, which will be any Vanguard that you have in this entire deck, because they're all Popping Party clan, or they're Popping Party archetype under Bang Dream. So the Popping Party on your Vanguard gets plus 10,000 power and plus 1 drive until the end of the battle. So it's basically just a ditch one to add an extra drive, so it ends up balancing out, but it gives you more drive checks, which is more threatening because, you know, with Kazumi giving the front row all of your trigger effects, that's why it's way more threatening to use it with Rimi Ushigome. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 4 Friend Feelings Arisa Ichigaya. So what Arisa does is when she's placed on the rearguard circle, you can Soul Blast 1 and reveal a critical trigger from your hand. Look at the top 5 cards from your deck, reveal up to 1 Popping Party card without having Arisa Ichigaya in its card name. From among them, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So basically, Arisa Ichigaya allows you to search top 5 for any card that is not her, basically. And that is very, very amazing. I actually think that in this build, the grade 1s are the most amazing part of the entire build. Like, it makes everything flow so nicely just having these 3 different grade 1s that we have. But Arisa allows you to search, so if you, whatever pieces you're missing out of the whole combo, you can just get those if they're in your top 5, and that really helps you speed along the process of getting to your ideal board and your ideal win condition. Next up, we have our grade 1 Kasumi, which is Sparkling Star Kasumi Toyama. So this card has a Vanguard ability and a Rearguard ability, which they are both amazing. The Vanguard ability is when placed on Vanguard Circle, look at the top 7 cards from your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 card with Kazumi Toyama and its card name from among them, and put into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is really, really good because we only run 4 grade 3s, as you guys saw. So we need a way to, now the draw power of this deck is pretty good. It does filter out pretty well. So most of the time you do end up getting to that grade 3 without G-assisting or doing anything crazy. But yeah, Kasumi Toyama, the grade 1, definitely helps with that. And you definitely want to use every up that you have to your advantage, you know, rather than not. And then its rearguard ability is you can put this unit on the bottom of the deck if it's on your rearguard during your main phase. You can put this unit on the bottom of your deck and return a Popping Party card without Kasumi Toyama in its card name from your drop zone to your hand. So basically you cannot get back another grade 1, a grade 2 Kasumi, or a grade 3 Kasumi, but you can get back all of your other key pieces, which is what you really care about. So after if you're playing an opponent that's playing like some kind of control, like Kagura or something like that, and they're destroying your cards are going to drop zone, and you have a couple grade 1 Kasumis on the in your hand, then you know that you just don't care as long as you don't block with these, because you know you can just put it back to your deck and get the card out of your drop zone. So very free, very easy. Lastly, the most amazing grade 1 in the deck, probably the card that puts everything the most together in the deck, is Po-Pipus Coordinator Saya Yamabuki. So what Saya does is when she's placed on the rearguard circle, you can counterblast 1 and put a card from your hand onto the bottom of your deck, and return a critical trigger and a popping party normal unit from your drop zone to your hand, and this ability may only be used by a card with the same card name once per turn. So that last part is on the effect because this card is so good. This card is probably the best card in the entire deck. And I'm going to tell you guys why for a couple reasons. So first of all, it's when it's placed. Obviously, this would be better if it was an axe skill, but it's auto skill. We'll take it. It's fine. So Saya, when you counterblast 1 and part of the cost is to put a card from hand to the bottom of your deck, you can actually put a trigger back to the bottom of your deck, and then immediately after, if you go search like an order card or you go for like a top 5, trying to, you know, search out with like a research or something like that, after you do that, your deck shuffles. So whatever you put back as your trigger to the bottom will actually shuffle into your deck, and that's very, very strong because you can like continue to check heals and they go to your hand, and then you're just putting back heals every single turn. So you guys will see me doing that in some of the gameplay, and it's just really, really efficient, really fun. Keeps you at like a good, consistent low damage because you're always checking heals and crits and stuff like that. So as your deck gets thinner, your triggers increase because of this card as well. So not only that, but you do get to return a critical trigger and a normal unit from your drop zone to your hand, and most of the card abilities in this deck require that you have some kind of crit trigger in your hand to reveal for the effect. So it's very, very important that you have a critical in your hand, because if you don't, some of your skills just kind of fall to a vanilla, and that is definitely what you don't want. Then for our grade zeros, we run 1 heart thumping start Kazumi Toyama. So this is the grade 0 Kazumi Toyama, and is basically just the same as any other of our Vanguard starters in the game. You can, when rode upon, draw a card, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 1 or greater, put a quick shield ticket in your hand. Obviously, use it for any discard skills that might come about, or use it for a small amount of shield in your turn. Then for our triggers, we're running 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. Our crits are 8 glittering memories. This is a special crit trigger that Bang Dream has that says that you can have up to 12 glittering memories in a deck, meaning that they don't have more than 1 crit trigger, but you don't need more than 1 crit trigger because this card can do it all. This card can just be your 8 crit triggers, so it's fine. Then we have our Draw Sentinel PG, which is everyone made the #1 stage. And then we have our heal trigger, which is best live. And something that's cool about the crits and the heals is they actually have different crits and heals that are both named glittering memories and best live. They have different crits and heals for every single different Bang Dream deck that comes out of this set. So you guys can pick and choose which glittering memories you want to use and which best lives you want to use, which arts. So I find that pretty cool. Now let's go into the music order cards. And I'm actually going to pull them out onto the guard circle so that you guys can see them. But just know that we run 2 more of the grade 1s like I discussed before. But this is basically the grade 3, the grade 2, and the grade 1. So let's go over each one of them. Let's start at the grade 1. So the grade 1 set, is called Double Rainbow. Double Rainbow says after playing a music, you put in the back row of the middle column until the end of the turn. So basically what this card does is it'll go here, and I like to turn it sideways on area. I assume that it's meant to be played sideways because that's how you read the card. So that's how I place it right here. But basically this circle is now occupied. You cannot play a unit on this circle, and you do not want to play a unit on this circle. Anything that was on this circle before this goes here goes to the drop zone automatically. If it was a locked card, goes to the drop zone automatically. It overtakes everything. So basically, it becomes its own little, like, quality circle behind your Vanguard. And so, basically, Double Rainbow, what its effect does is when placed on the rear guard circle, you can draw a card, or you do draw a card, it's mandatory. And then you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 crit trigger from among them, put it into your hand, and put the rest onto the bottom of your deck in any order. So what this does is this sets you up for the rest of the game pretty nicely. Since this is the grade 1 order, you can go straight into this like from your first turn if you have this available to you. And since you can only use 1 order per turn, I would suggest using the order as soon as you can, just so that you're not stuck with a bunch of orders in your hand. However, like I said earlier, the orders provide really good discard fodder. So if you have multiple orders in your hand, just discard them because they're not providing you any shield, and we can get them back easily from the drop zone, so it's not a big deal. So moving on to our grade 2 order card, we have Kizuna Music. This is honestly one of my favorite cards out of the 3 orders. This is probably my favorite and the one that you use the most because it has 2 rear guard abilities. The first one is continuous rearguard ability. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 2 or greater, then all your front row units get plus 5,000 power. So this is very, very good on a turn 2 rush, because all of your units will be getting power. And then not to mention, if you have a Tay, then your Tay will be giving power to Vanguard and rearguard when your Vanguard swings. So just important things to keep note of. You can get to really big power and really hard to deal with for your opponent. But my favorite part of this card is honestly not even that skill. It's the second skill, which is when placed on the rearguard circle, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 5 cards from your deck, and then put any card into your hand. So basically this is Orisa without Orisa's, downside, which is that you can get anything you want. So you can basically look at the top 5 and get any card you want. And that is so freaking amazing because you can get a PG, you can get like a PG, you can get any of the missing pieces you need, you can get a grade 3. So this card is just very, very amazing, especially that it's the grade 2 order, because a lot of times you're missing cards before you go to your combo. So that allows you to fix that. And I just messed up by putting this on Vanguard Circle, but that's okay. We're just going to talk about this order, this last order, which is the grade 3. So the grade 3 order card of this deck is called Returns. So what Returns does is at the beginning of your battle phase, if you have the units Kazumi Toyama, Tai Hozono, Tai Hanazono, sorry, I feel like it's disrespectful to mispronounce it, so I'm trying to pronounce them the right way. Rimi Ushigome, Saya Yamabuki, and Alisa Ichigaya, in their card names each, reveal the top 5 cards from your deck, and then you can put up to 1 critical trigger from among them on the top of your deck, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, all of your units on your board get plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn for each critical trigger that was revealed. So let me make an example field for you guys, just so you guys can see what's going on. So let's assume that we went Force, right? We have a Force marker on our Vanguard. We're going to move these orders out of the way. Actually, we're going to keep this grade 3 order. And then this other order that's in the Soul, we're going to move over to here. So your ideal board will look something like this. So you'll have a Tay over here, a Rimi over here, an Orisa over here, and a Saya over here. And then you'll have any of the 3 order cards that you have here, the grade 1, the grade 2, or the grade 3. You will play that order card behind your Vanguard. Now, the best things that I can suggest is if you have the whole setup for the grade 3 order card, always use the grade 3 order card. It is the most powerful one, and it literally will cost you nothing to do it. The grade 2 order card is pretty much if you don't have the requirements to meet the requirements for the grade 3 order card, or if you need to search a card desperately, sometimes you'll want to use the grade 2 order card instead of going full aggro with the grade 3 order card. And then if you can't do either comfortably, then just go double rainbow and draw yourself a card and look for a crit. If anything, that will add shield value to your hand and maybe keep you alive one more turn so that you can maybe the next turn dish out a grade 2 or grade 3 order card. So the ideal field looks like this exactly. And then let's say that I'm going to put all these crit triggers to the top of my deck, or just some of them, so you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so I put 4 crits to the top of my deck, so let's assume that these orders are the 2 cards in my hand. So basically the way that this will work out for you guys is at the beginning, since this happens at the beginning of the battle phase, boom, we go into battle phase, and then this, since it has these 5 units on the board, it will read it and it will proc immediately. So then we will reveal the top 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then since there's 4 crits here, then all of our rear guards, or all of our units in general, will get plus 20k power, because you get 5k per each critical that was revealed. So obviously I'm not going to click on every single card over here, but you guys can imagine what these columns will look like if it's plus 20 to everything, and if we have a couple force markers, because we've probably rewritten by the time that we've gone into the returns order card and gotten it off safely. And then you will place one of these back to the top of the deck, and the rest of these will go to the bottom in any order as per the card says. Then when you swing with the Kasumi grade 3, both of these abilities will proc at the same time. So you'll go Tay, which will give 5k to Vanguard and 5k to your rearguard as well. And then Rimi will have you discard a card. And I'm actually going to just have this in my hand for a second. But Remy will have you discard a card, and then you have to reveal a crit. So you already have to have a crit in your hand to be able to get off Remy. And that's why I was talking about that crits are important to hold at least one crit in your hand at all times. Saya should help you with that greatly, because if you played it in the same turn, you should already have a crit that you got back from your drop zone, but just saying. So you reveal a critical trigger, and then boom, you discarded a card. However, you get an additional 10k and drive to your Vanguard. So this will be attacking your Vanguard for 58, and then it will get triple drive. So anything that you check, because you have the full board of requirement, would go to your front row. So that crit that we just checked, crit and 10k to the front row. 3 and then 4, obviously if those were triggers like a heal or something like that, or draw, the power across the front row would still apply. So like I said, a very fun deck, and we're gonna get right into the games here, just to show you guys a little bit of the action. So first we have Poppin Party 1. So we're actually playing against the Cross in this first game. Shout out to our friend Joe, who goes by KO Joe on area. So we ride the grade 1 Kazumi card. We look for the top 7. We do get the grade 3 off. We put the rest of the cards back and we shuffle. We pass turn. Joe goes ahead and rides Lava Flow, looking at the top 5, and he does get the Cross. Also draws himself a card off the starter and discards his Quick Shield. He attacks and we no pass that with a crit, getting our drop zone started off early. And so if you guys can block those early attacks and you still have a crit, I would just do it. So we ride the grade 2 Kazumi, we check top 7, and we do get a music order card, which is the grade 1. And since we already had the grade 3, we clearly can't use that because we're on grade 2, but we used the double rainbow just because we could. And we didn't have anything else that we wanted to do in this turn, so we played the double rainbow, drew a card, and just got along with our lives. We checked a heal, but it didn't go through, and then our music card dies at the end phase. So our opponent, Joe, rides the cat and plays a heat shot in the back row, then goes for lava flow and gets the end, but discards it instantly. We no guard the Vanguard, which is 17. We do get a draw trigger, and then I decide to block this with a crit, but then I figured that it was better in hindsight to block it with a 5k. So before we ended this turn, we were actually on a voice chat with each other. I just decided to block with Tay instead. So we ride the grade 3 Kazumi. We go force 1, giving force to Vanguard. And then we have the whole full setup here, it looks like, except for Arisa. So what we're going to do here is we go for Saya to get these 2 back. And then we play Tay. With Tay, we discard a card and get a music order card, so we just got returns back. And then now we play the grade 2 order card, which is Kizuna, because we did not have an Arisa. So if we had an Arisa, we would have played returns. However, we did not have a Arisa, so we checked top 5 off of Kizuna music, and we were able to get the Arisa then. So now when we play Arisa, we use its skill to Soul Blast and reveal a crit, and then check top 5 for any popping party card. So we added a Saya, because obviously most broken card. Why would you not add Saya if it's there? So then we're going into our attack, and then we're attacking for 33. We do not use the skill of Remy because he is not yet grade 3. So we do check a critical trigger though, which means that crit and power is going across our front row, and he does not hit a damage trigger, and that's important for us because he now has to block huge, as you guys can see. And he did not want to go to 4 damage because that is ideally where this deck wants you at, and you're basically in kill range then. So he wastes a good amount of his resources blocking us early so that he can try to get something started here. He goes into the cross and uses its skill to get its restand started off properly. I no guarded the Vanguard. He does check a crit, and then we take 3 damage. One of them was a heal, which we do heal off. And then he proceeds to discard 3 cards to restand his Vanguard. And then he attacks us for 41, which has 1 drive check. So we pretty much just no passed it. And then our opponent, or Joe, counter boss 1, soul boss 1 to restand. And then this time we just still no passed it. And then his rear guard lava flow can't hit because he doesn't have more rear guards than me. And so I ride the Kazumi grade 3 again, getting another force marker. And then we had a Remy in our hand, so we can just play it again. And now that we have returns in our hand, boom, we have the full setup. we just go for playing returns. Unfortunately here, when we check top 5, none of them were crit triggers, so none of our units get plus 5,000 off the card. However, we do still have the setup, so that's still, you know, very, very good. So we do check a heal here. Heal power goes across our front row, and then he does check a heal on defense as well. So we attack for 28, which he decides to block with a critical trigger tar, and then we attack for 43, which he takes and gets a draw trigger. So lots of triggers coming out on both sides, as you guys can see. And then he rides again and goes into Forge 2 for his rearguard Lava Flow. And then he plays Lava Flow, looks at the top 5 cards. And I think he did that because all his ends were gone. There's 1 end in his soul and 2 in his drop zone, so he didn't have a way to recycle those to use the cross, so I figured he probably just figured I'll just ride the end. So he discards 3 for the end's ability, attacks us for 31, we no pass it. And then he counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and restands and attacks us for 31 with no drive check. And we just go ahead and block it with a 10. So then he attacks 16 to our rearguard, we let that go. And then we ride another Kasumi grade 3. We play a Saya. So Saya skill, we place a card to bottom. And then we get back a crit and our Rimi. So that's the perfect setup to have for Rimi right now. And we play Rimi down, and then we play, we counterblast 1 with Kazumi to get returns from the drop zone, and we get 2 crits off the top. So we put 1 back, and then all of our units get plus 10. So very, very big numbers here. Obviously, Joe has 2 cards in his hand, and we have a triple drive coming through. So we ended up checking double crit, and that's a double crit, like 20k and 2 crit to our front row. So it was way too big for Joe to block regardless, and no matter what he would have done in that last turn, he would have died just because of the power of the Poppin party. So now we're loading up Poppin party game 2. So game 2, we actually played against another Bang Dream deck. I haven't played any of the Bang Dream decks except for this one yet, because this is the first one. So this is Poppin party, and this is Rosalia. So Rosalia, as we kind of figured out as we were playing, is kind of like a restander deck, which is pretty cool. But we're going to get into Rosalia later in the week, so you guys will definitely see that. But our opponent does have to G-assist and go into grade 1. His cards are just as complicated as when I explained mine, so I'm not even going to try to explain his, except for that some of his cards have on-hit draws, and his main Vanguard is a restander, which is this card, Yukina Minato. So he plays some grade 2s to get a little filter going, a little soul charging going, because this deck is very soul reliant. And then he also has some cards that can gain him advantage in soul at the same time. So he goes for the grade 1 order, which draws a card, and 2 of his units get plus 5. And then, sorry about that random alarm, guys. But yeah, so he goes for his grade 2 turn. We block what we can. We end up with 2 damage, which is not bad at all. We end up riding Tay, and then we end up rushing. So normally I would just hold my pieces, but we end up rushing in this case because I realized how beneficial it would have been to rush, because I wanted to take cards out of his hand early, if we could. So he ends up going into Yukina Minato, which is his main grade 3 ride. And then he plays his rear guards, which these rear guards have a setup, which when these hit in the same column with each other, this one soul charges, and this one counterblocks 1, draws a card. And then he goes for getting the grade 3 song, or the grade 3 music order card, which actually is what allows the restand of his Vanguard. And it's actually very, very cost efficient and very, very good. Like, it's a good restand for sure. But he attacks again with his restand. We PG. He does get a PG of his own and puts on the rear guard. And then passes the turn over to us. We ride at grade 3. We go force 1. And the worst thing about this so far is that we don't have even close to what our setup is. We need a Risa, and we also need Saya to get what we need to get done. So we go for getting, again, Kizuna, which is one of our favorite cards. We check top 5. We use the skill of Kazumi to get Arisa that we soul blasted out. And now we have the Saya and the Arisa. So we use the Arisa here, soul blast again, reveal the crit, check top 5, add a card. And so we end up adding, or at first we were going to add another Orisa, but specifically off of Orisa, you cannot add another Orisa. So we are just going to get this Kazumi instead, this grade 2 Kazumi. And then we use Saya skill, counter blast 1, put a card back. You guys see I put back a draw trigger PG. And then I got back 2 cards from the drop zone. So when we attack, we use the skill of Rimi and Tay to discard a card, reveal a crit, and then suddenly this card is really big with 3 drive checks, and it has 1 critical. So our opponent asks us how many critical he no guards the attack, and we do not check anything, which is unfortunate. If we would have checked at least 1 crit there, like that would have set the tone for the following turns. But instead, that set the tone for our opponent to start being aggressive towards us. So our opponent goes back into the grade 3 order card Firebird, which gives him like the restand capabilities. Attacks us for 28, we PG. He proceeds to check a heal trigger, puts it on his rear guard. Uses Firebird skill. And then attacks us for 28. And then attacks us for 31. And then passes turn. We go into Kazumi again, getting another force marker. And this time we use Kazumi to search our deck for the returns, because that's the last piece that we were needing to complete our combo. So we go for returns, reveal the top 5. You guys see that there's 1 crit in there, so all of our rear guards get plus 5,000 power. And then unfortunately, because we do not have a crit in our hand, we weren't able to get off Rimi. I feel like that would have made a big difference here. But I actually forgot to use Asaya the proper way. So I, as a result, did not have a crit trigger in my hand. So that was my own mistake. So then our opponent plays a grade 1 Yukina Minato, which lets him look at the top 5, reveal it to 1 grade 2 or greater, and put it into your hand. And then if you put a card, discard a card. So this is basically the Stride Fodder, except it can get grade 2 or greater instead of just grade 3, which is pretty cool. So our opponent is going for the Akko, which is look at the top 5 cards, reveal up to 1 Rinko. He gets the grade 1 Rinko Shurikune. And then on this turn, he goes for the grade 2 order card instead of the grade 3. And this is what screws me. It's funny because he went into it because he actually can't restand. But this card is actually what ended up screwing me in this matchup, because as you guys can see, my board is very reliant on staying my board. And so if he starts popping my board and doing stuff to my board, then, you know, I can't recover it if I don't have the right pieces. And then my formation just falls apart. So we had to guard his Vanguard for a 2 to pass. And he does not get the 2 to pass. However, his his music order says that when his Rosalia attack does not hit, he can counterblast 1 and choose one of my rear guards and retire it. And then if a unit was retired, he draws the same number of cards as that unit's grade that was retired. So because he retired one of my grade 2s, he drew 2 cards. So I think that's absolutely nuts, and definitely something to watch out for with this other deck. So for turn, I drew a crit, which, you know, obviously wasn't good. But I can make this, you know, kind of better by using Kazumi and getting Kazuna. And Kazuna, you know, will Soul Blast and check top 5. And then off of our top 5, we got Orisa. So we decided to get Orisa. I think Orisa and Saya were there, but we decided to get Orisa because we wanted to be able to get Orisa and Saya. And then hopefully off of that, get something else as well. So we put a card back. And we're getting a crit back. And a grade 2. And like I said, I really hope that these decks come out in America soon before they become completely irrelevant, because these decks are really, really, really fun. Like, I really didn't expect to have this much fun playing the decks. So our opponent goes into playing the grade 2 Rinko, or the grade 1 Rinko, and then he goes back into Firebird because he once again has 4 soul. So the only way that I live this is that if I want to pass him, he, goes into his drive checks, and then I have 2 heals in my deck, so I was planning on 6 damage healing. That was part of the plan. So I actually did want to pass him, and he whiffed it the first time. And then on the restand, I wanted to pass him again, and then he got a crit trigger. So if he had not gotten the last trigger in his deck, then I would have 6 damage healed one of his rear guards, and then he would have had to pass turn, and then I could have either passed turn for game, and he would have drew that card, or I could have attacked into him, and he would have lost for game that way too. So very, very close game. Obviously came right down to the wire. And definitely, Poppin' Party is not a deck to be slept on, guys. Like, this deck is kind of tight, kind of amazing. But our third and final opponent is also playing a Bang Dream deck. They're playing the Raise Azulian deck, and from what I can gather, this is kind of like a Grand Blue type Bang Dream deck. It works based off your drop zone, and then it is like Alt Mal combined with Grand Blue. That's the best way that I can explain it. It puts a lot of cards into the drop zone by milling, and then basically for however many cards you have in the drop zone or something like that, you give your Vanguard power and your rear guards power, and then it has a certain card that says if your Vanguard and your rear guards are a certain threshold of power, then they all become crit 2. So that's very, very good. You don't even ever have to go force 2 in that build because you already have a card that is creating force 2 for you. Unluckily for our opponent, our deck is pretty much force 2 as well, in the form of when we get our full setup. So as you guys can see, we're using all the skills here. You guys can probably tell what's going on just from what I've explained in the video so far. But if you ever have a question about what's going on in the game, drop a timestamp and a comment down below, and I will explain to you what was going on during that part of the video if you guys didn't explain it, or if you guys didn't understand it, so that I can explain it to you. So our opponent rides Tay. I wasn't even aware that people use that card in other Bang Dream decks. I thought that was specific to this Bang Dream deck, but I guess you can run it. So our opponent, we attack for 23. Our opponent takes it and gets a draw trigger on defense, which is absolutely, positively terrible for us in every way. Like, it was kind of ridiculous. But our opponent rides Supreme Diva Layer, so that this seems to be the main grade 3 card from or from Raids of Sullivan, the Bang Dream Raids of Sullivan set, or the Raids of Sullivan archetype. And so then our opponent is playing all these music order cards, and like I said, this is based off a drop zone, so you see a lot of these cards are based on if you've used the order card this turn, or if you have 5 or more music orders in your drop zone. So there's like a card that says if you have 7 or more, then it does something, and I think that's an order card. But you guys can see that the grade 2 order card allows them to draw a card and then discard 2 from their hand. And if their drop zone has 5 or more musics, all their front rows get plus 5,000, which makes them crit 2 with the help of this grade 1 over here. So we actually take the crit 2 twice, and then we block the last one, because obviously if we take it, we would die. And we need to get the grade 2 Kazumi off the field anyways. So the cards that we're missing here are Saya, and then we're also missing the other grade 2. So we go for Kazuna to search top 5 for the other grade 2. We do get it. We get our Tay. So now our full lineup is complete. We play Tay, then Saya. Saya skill puts a card back, and then adds this crit and this Saya to our hand. We activate Rimi and Tay. So Rimi has us discard a card and reveal a crit. We check a crit trigger. Our opponent checks a heal, but it doesn't go off, and then we attack for 38 to crit as well. Does not hit either one. So our opponent goes for Strongest Music Chew to rest it. Look at the top 5 cards of the deck. Get 2 Raise the Sullivan music cards. Put them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom. And this is our version of Saya in the deck. It says that its ability can only be used by the same card name once per turn, which means that it's pretty much broken of a card. So now we're back to our numbers being very, very high and having crit 2. So we actually PG'd. We guard hard guard here with an intercept. And then we hard guard here as well for 43. Now the reason that I didn't guard with that crit, if you guys are wondering, is because I did not want to discard the crit. Because I do not have another Saya in my hand, so there's no guarantee that I could get the crit in time, etc., etc. So we did make our full board back again. This time we do have a crit off the top coming off of return, so 5k to everything. So we went ahead and discarded and revealed for Remy. Our Vanguard has 3 drive checks. So with him being at 4 damage, I definitely thought that I had this cinched because of the attacks being so big. But it turns out he had all 3 PGs in his hand, and I was like, what? Who does that? No one has all the, you know, the cards that they need at any said given time in place. Like, that's broken. He has Psyqualia. But he's trying to set up for his turn here. We obviously only have 5 cards in our hand, so it's looking kind of shaky. However, he gets that order card back to his hand. That is the ace card of the Raise the Sullen deck. And then it basically allows our opponent to, if the drop zone has 7 or more Raise the Sullen musics, and until the end of the turn, all of your front row units get plus 10,000 power, and you counterblast 1, and your units, your opponent's units cannot increase their power by trigger effects. So your opponent is attacking with 2 crit. I asked why the rear guard was 35 because it didn't really make sense to me. But then after he broke it down, I was like, oh, okay. Okay, so he goes for 38 on the attack. 2 crit. And so basically my plan here was to PG the Vanguard and then take one of the rear guards that just has 2 crit. That way I can attempt to heal. Since we're both at 4, I have 2 chances to heal. Good amount of heals in my deck. I thought that I could, you know, have that be the plan. So we PG, we discard a card. He doesn't get any triggers. He attacks for 43. And then we take it, hoping to get a heal trigger. However, we do not get a heal trigger. And that has been the FutureFight Vanguard series for the Bang Dream Poppin Party deck. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I did for the first time in a while. This has kind of re-sparked my, you know, wanting to play area, so that's really, really cool. And I hope you guys tune in for the rest of the week's Bang Dream decks. Also, be sure to subscribe, leave a like on the video, comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the video. And man, that alarm just doesn't quit, does it? I turned it off like 4 times. But anyways, guys, with that being said, this has been another Cardfight Empire video. I have been your host, Josh Stallworth, and I hope you guys join us tomorrow for the Bang Dream Afterglow deck. But with that being said, guys, have an awesome Monday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace, guys.